This is the installation video of how to install a lighted speaker panel on a Stern metal paneled DMD game. I'm going to give you a couple pictures here beforehand to show you a couple examples of what the panel looks like already installed. This is it on Metallica. This is a lighted speaker panel on Ghostbusters with the aftermarket art package on the panel. We also have an original version. Now, these panels on the Stern games, these are our third generation panels. This is a lighted panel on Creature. That's a second generation panel. The game we're going to install a panel on is going to be Walking Dead. And actually that Frankenstein, that's our first generation panel. This is the accessory pack for installing the lighted speaker panel on metal paneled Stern DMD games. This is the power supply. This could vary on some of the games, but on all the power supplies we give you an input as well as an output, and then we tap. So this way if you have existing mods, you'll be able to continue to have them hooked up. This is going to be the LED controller. This will control the RGB from the remote control. This is the battery for the remote. This is the cable that goes from here to your lighted panel, and these are the 4-pin connectors that go on either side of the connections. These are all the bolts that you're going to use, and there's a lot more here than you're really going to need because everything's here so you can install the original speakers and the original DMD or aftermarket lighted speaker kits and or aftermarket color DMD. So everything's here. The lock washers would be for installing the DMD speakers in metal brackets. The washers are to install the original DMD speaker in metal brackets. The 1 1¼ inch machine screws are if you're going to use an aftermarket light kit on your panel for the speakers. The machine screws 7 16 inch are for your original speakers, for a color DMD, and for the metal brackets. The 1-inch machine screws are if you're going to use your original DMD. These sheet metal screws are for these wood brackets. You have some zip ties to clean up your wires. These are the brackets that'll hold the panel in place, and these get mounted to the side of your back box to the original holes. The first part is to put in the wire tap, the LED controller, and the wire to the back box. Now, this is the 4-pin connector that just slides in to the, and these get connected. Now there's an arrow on the top here, arrow top there. You want to have those arrows meeting. And this is what's coming off of the wire tap. Now many of the Stern games will use a standard Molex. A couple of the other games, Spike will use a different connector. It'll get supplied with those kits. That's just going to connect in like that. And then you just bring this. And on the Molex plug, it's got a point on it, so it can only be plugged in one way. And that'll plug into the plug here on the side of the inside of the coin door. Then we're going to run this wire up to the back box. Next step is you want to put a towel or a blanket or something to protect your glass. I actually like using my wife's bath mats because it's got a rubberized backing and it won't slide. Just unlock and pull up your translite, and it'll just come out that easy. And the existing panel just lifts up and just set it down like that. So bring your wire up from the front through a hole here, and then the next step is these 3 bolts have to be removed. This bracket is going to come off, and there's 2 screws here and here that remove this, and this pivot point also has to be removed. So those 3 get removed from both sides. These are the 2 wood brackets that are going to go inside your back box that your new speaker panel is going to get mounted to. One side's not painted. Those are the sides that are going to go down. They're actually the same exact bracket, just a left and a right. Now, the way I found it's the easiest to install these is if you put your screw in your top one and just put that in the existing hole and just tighten it up a little bit with your hand so it hangs. That way it can come off a good 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 of an inch. And put your screw in the bottom one, and then you can look at it from the front here and line it up to the existing hole, and then just tighten it up a little bit with your fingers. Now there's no washers on these. That's important, because if you put a washer here, you're not going to be able to get the panel in it. It is a tight fit, but it'll fit just fine, and both of these will then just get screwed down. These are with the wood brackets installed on both the left and right. The next step is just take your panel and unscrew all the screws that are holding in the DMD and both speakers. Now, a couple things can be easier. You could disconnect your speakers and DMD if you wanted to take this to your living room table to do it, or you could do it here. But the speakers and the speaker grills are just going to lift right up. The thing is, on the DMD, a couple things you want to be really cautious about. First off, there's little black spacers. You want to make sure not to lose those. These are going to be reused when you remount your DMD. But when you lift up the DMD, you'll have a black spacer at each point. Plus, you'll also have a piece of plexiglass. This piece of plexiglass is going to be put on the lighted speaker panel. If you use a regular DMD or a color DMD, either way you want to go with this. If you're going to go with a color DMD, you probably want to buy an aftermarket white plexiglass panel, or you might already have that. This is your lighted speaker panel that you're going to get. It's already going to have a graphic installed. You have the cutouts for your speakers and DMD. This is the bottom key that goes into here, and it has a cut-in on the top that your translite will go into. The back of it is perfectly flat. I would compare this to a wood-paneled DMD for the stern, and we're going to go over all the different variations that you can go with. First, let's say you're just installing your original speakers. You'll put your speaker grill in place. You'll take your original speaker and it'll go right in place. You'll use a washer and a lock washer, and you'll use a 7/16 inch screw, and that would just go in and secure it down with the lock washer and the washer. Now, if you want to go with lighted speaker kits, you would use your lighted speaker kit. It'll go over the speaker grill, and then your speaker will go over that. And with this kit, you'll use the 1 1/4 inch screw. You'll use a lock washer and a washer, and this will be long enough to secure all that on. So those are your two options with a speaker. Now with your DMD, you also have two options, and the lighted speaker kit is not included with this package, and the color DMD is not included with this package. You use your original plexiglass. It'll drop into place. And then your color DMD, if you go that route, move this up a little bit, will line up. We show you the exact holes on the written manual, but for the original, or for the color DMD, you'll also use the 7/16 inch screws, and so that's the smaller screw. You'll use a lock washer, but no washer. So you don't need any spacers or attachments or anything. Color DMD will fit right on there. If you go with the original DMD, you need to remember to use the black spacers that you used when you pulled off the game, and they'll go in place on all 6 spots. And you would then use the 1-inch metal screw with a washer and a lock washer, and that would secure that on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to install speakers with light kits and the original DMD, and you'll see that on the next scene. Okay, so this is the lighted speaker panel with the components installed in the back. Now, we didn't mention this metal bracket. This just screws on with the 7/16 with a lock washer and a washer. Now, one tab is a little bit bigger than the other tab. They can go either way. You can put the small tab here or the big tab. Doesn't matter. On our example here, we have a lighted speaker kit that does not come with our kit, but we just want to use that for demonstration purposes. This mounts just like it does on your regular speaker grill. Got the standoff, washer, lock washer, have all 6 of them. Now this is the wiring assembly for the lighted speaker panel. This is going to plug into the wire using a 4-pin connector that you brought up earlier. Now we have little extra wires here for the speaker kit, and that's the remote for the speaker kit, so that's nothing we're involved with. That comes with this. Now to install it, just bring it up and get the tongue to line up, and then just tilt it forward. Now this will catch onto the wooden bracket. Now if you just lift them up slightly, push them back, they'll fall into place and drop in. Now, want to test it? Just turn on the power. You got everything going. We'll button this up and we'll go get some color set for you. Okay, let's turn it on and see what we get. Now this is set to white in the brightest setting. Now you have brightness controls, and a lot of times it's hard to see on the camera what we're doing, but we're going to lower the brightness so you can see all colors can be adjusted, all brightnesses. So we'll bring the brightness back up to the brightest. Now this is white, and we're going to scroll through a bunch of colors. Some of them won't look good, but some of them are going to look really nice. That's just red, orange, a lighter orange. That does really good to pull up the reds, and it matches the back plate really well. A little bit lighter orange, yellow. Often yellows do pull a lot of the color out. You have different variations of green and aqua blues. Here's blue and a little bit lighter blue, purple. Now the brown, this is brown, which actually does pull up some colors. Looks good. And also, ironically, pinks usually look good. That's a pink, a little bit darker pink, a blue with light blue. So I'm going back to this orange yellow color. That's the one I like personally. But you got total control over all the colors, total control over the brightness. And of course, if you want to have it off, that's what it looks like off. And that's your lighted speaker panel for installation for a metal Stern DMD game. Enjoy.